of these sessions. So feel free to let me know how are you feeling about it. And this is the fourth one, and the next one is going to be next Saturday. This is the last session. Um, and Recently we have covered all the most important topics. Now we are going to talk about the Lightning Data Services and how you are going um, to manipulate the data with Lightning Web Components. You already know me. My name is Hamza, and I'm 17 times Salesforce certified application and system architect, and I'm also a developer, and blah blah blah. So obviously you should be looking at the blog that I do really post some technical stuff. All right. So today we're going to talk about the Salesforce data, that how to use the base components on the Lightning Data Service using LWC. You also see that how to use Lightning Data Services, the wire adapters, and the other relevant function. And the last thing we'll talk about is the using the Apex, how you can communicate with the Apex, your custom Apex methods using the LWC, and how to use the data over there. Meanwhile, if you guys have any questions, please feel free to post it up in there. So how many of you have heard about Lightning Data Services before? If yes, please simply just raise your hand or the chat using the emote icon. Lightning Data Service is actually a service provided by Salesforce where you don't have to write the whole functionality, and it comes out of the box. So you can use to perform operations and data access the metadata using these technologies, which are built on Lightning Data Services. So as you can see, in the bullets, it's like the Lightning record edit form, Lightning record form, and Lightning record view form. These are some of the same stuff. What you have to just do is to provide the record ID and the object API name, and it will automatically reflect the whole record information. So look at the first one. So Lightning record edit form. The name says it all. It will give you the edit form for whatever the object and the record ID you will provide. The next one is the record form, which actually works for the both ways. It has the edit and the view capability. And the next one is the Lightning record view form, which will only allow you to read the record details. And that's true. You only have to provide the object name, the API name, and the record ID. That's it. Rest of the stuff will be handled by Salesforce Lightning Data Service himself. The next thing is that the Y adapters and the functions in the Lightning UI API modules. So these modules are also available. So let's just say you have to create a record, you have to read a record, or you have to modify a record, but you are not using this Lightning record edit form services, this component in an HTML file. You can still provide, you can still use this Lightning UI modules to manipulate the data in appropriate ways. We're also going to talk about it. So in short, so Lightning Data Services does a lot of work to make code perform well. That's the out of the box that is doing. It loads records data progressively, caches the client results, it invalidates the cache entries, and that's more important when dependent Salesforce data and metadata changes. It also talk about how you can refresh that, how you can provide Salesforce the DOM, the updated, what has changed. And it also optimizes service calls by bulkifying in dereaping request. Don't have to create the whole Apex classes yourself. Here is our demo time. I'm gonna quickly share my screen with you. Let me just share the whole entire screen. Okay, great. So let's just consider this is I'm on this org which has the LWC recipes we all talked about it earlier. Here you can see on the left hand side, I mean this section has this whole section has almost four sections. This screen. The first one is the Lightning Data Service, which is actually reviewing you the page request value. We'll go there. But first, let's talk about this data create record. Let's just see how it is working right now, and then we'll go to the code. All right. So actually, let's go there for the records. So under the contact, we already have these default details tab, right? We have all the information here. But what if you need a custom tab where you need to provide those simple values anywhere else? So this is on the right. You can see this is the dynamic content. That's a record form dynamic content. The contact. I mean, and it is showing you a couple of the values, and it is also an editable. You may be assuming that this may be the standard object, but it's not. It's a custom Lightning Web component, but it is based on the Lightning Data Service, which is actually doing the data manipulation by himself. I mean, I do not have to just consider anything, and I can here modify anything I want. Let's just say if I want to modify the last name and whatnot, if I click save, it will reflect here automatically. As you can see that the name has been changed here as well, and this is this is a simple component. Let's just see how this component is working, right? So this is the record form dynamic content. This is the Latin record form. All right, so let's go to our VS Code, and here we have this. So before I just wanted to talk to you about the JavaScript. Here you go. It is a simple JavaScript that we have, and it has nothing other than two API decorators, which is one is the record ID and the other one is the object API name. These two values are getting populated using the Lightning design attributes. So if you go to Lightning app builder, you will find these two attributes. And actually, not the actual two. So record ID is already automatically gets automatically in these values in this case. But you also have the option to set these value in the XML file that it can also get attracted. Here you can see the record target file. We are targeting that only it should be visible to the record pages where the object is contact. Coming back to the JavaScript file, so JavaScript only has these two API variables which are getting populated automatically as soon as the record variable gets visits by the customer. These two values will be automatically populated, and these values are getting passed to the HTML file. And let's see what HTML file is doing. This is the Lightning card simple template, which is doing nothing but for the UI. It has a title and the icon, as you can see in here, right? This is the icon and the title. The rest is our magic. So this is the component that we are using. It's called Lightning Record Edit Form, and we are providing the object API name here and the record ID. So these two, as we have already covered the events in the last session, you can simply assume that these are actually events under this form, this component, and this is the standard component, and we just have to pass these values. And here, after this, we are actually providing the fields to show, right? So which fields you want to show? These are only showing it, right? And this is the account. I mean, we are only showing. We want to see the couple of fields. This is account, name, title, phone. We don't need all of the fields that are available for the contact object, and that's it exactly, that's it. And this is the button that you can also rename whatever you want, and as soon as the save button is clicked, the whole functionality will automatically will do the stuff. Let's just say if you want to edit or modify or do create, that can handle. But right now we are using the edit form, so it is actually editing the record ID that we are passing in here. That's what we just did a quick demo over it. Same goes with this record review form, and it is just a view form, and you are not allowed to modify anything here. So simply you can see that you don't have to do anything in the Apex or data manipulation. It's just you have to use this Latin record form, and that's it. Just provide the IDs. Bingo, your work will be visible here. And if you do not provide, so this is maybe the question comes up in your mind that What if we do not provide these lines? We don't provide these Latin input fields. What will happen? The simple thing is that it will show all the fields of this object. And trust me, it also has these options that you can have the multi-column, multi-columns as well. So let's just say if you're working on multiple, let's just say you are working on flow or any community component where you want to, you have a full screen and you want to show multi-columns, yeah, you can do it. All right, that's simple way how you can do that. Let's go back to the data service. We have seen that how you can modify and read the data. Let's just talk about creation. This is our component LDS create record. This component has a simple ID which is disabled, so I'm supposed to write on it. And the other one is the name, and this is a button called create account. If I just simply write my name and create account, I've got a toast saying the account created with a success message, and the ID has been populated automatically. This looks great, right? So let's just see how this is working. Coming to the LDS. There we go. So let's just go for the JavaScript first. So in the JavaScript, you can see that the first thing that you are seeing that is that we are importing the show toast event, which is actually the out of the box. We don't have to do anything. Just simply copy this line and just import the show test toast event file. The next one you can see that is the Lightning UI API module that we are using. We are using create record method from the UI records API. UI records API has create record, edit record, delete, and create. These four available here. So just have to import record UI and just write a name. And if you have more, you can simply comma separate the values. Let's just say edit record, right? And that's how you can import the both of them. All right, moving it for now. The next one is that to reduce errors. This is the epic. This is the LWC method. This is LDS utilities that we are using. The only reduce errors method that we have already seen how you can use the shared JavaScript methods from like in the conference in the past session. And here, on the line number 5, we are importing the account object API, and we are providing the Salesforce schema and the account object API name. And on the next line, line number 6, we are importing the name field, which is under the account, and for providing the API names. Just make sure we are providing the API names here, not the labels, right? So let's just say if you are going to import any custom object, so this is going to be like this and like this with a custom field like this. So I assume you already know what's the difference between the custom and the standard components API names. So I'm just we're gonna go through this. So once you have done with all these importing, what we are doing that now is that we have the account ID. In a session 2, we talked about the decorators and we talked about the track decorator. And we have also discussed that track decorator is not needed anymore after the API version 50, I believe. And so as you can see that this account ID, any variable that you are using under your JavaScript LWC, it has the track capability. The next is in the name. The name also it is started with the blank initiated, and then we have a method, the method called handle name change, and we are passing the event with it. This event is actually the default value, and any out of the box or DOM event changes will appear in here. And as you can see that this is how we are getting the value of whatever has changed using the event dot target dot value. This handle name change, actually let's just see what it is doing right now, and we'll go back and I'll show you, I'll explain to you how this functions. So you see, this is basically resetting the account ID with the undefined value, and whatever the event target value is getting assigned to the name. All right, just remember this. I'll come back to this later. Now we have a method called create account. This create account has a constant field, constant variable called fields, and it is an array. Um, if you don't know about the constant, constant is that is something that you are not allowed to change. Let's just say if you have any configuration variable, you should use constant because that cannot be updated. Even if I set any value on this field, it cannot be get updated. So that's once it's set, it's not updatable. So you can use constant for that. There are other like let and this, or I mean the var, that's kind of the same. Then what we are doing is that under the fields we are actually doing is that with the name field that we did import earlier, we are getting the field API name, and this value is going to be for the key for the fields under the associative array, and the name value will go as a value. So this is actually the associative array, and this associative array has the API name of the field as a key, and the value we have the name value. All right. So default the value is blank, which is go exactly the same. But this will only happen when this method will be called by either click or whatever. Then what it is doing is that it is creating the record input, and it is passing the data to the create record method with what we have is a UI record API. And this is also called the imperative way to calling any method. We'll also talk about it, how you can do it with the custom Apex. So we are using this, we are simply calling this method and providing the data that we already have under the JSON format in here. The API name and the whole associative array, the map, you can also say. And then we are getting the value returned as an account, and the account IDs, if account IDs exist, put it in the account ID variable, and then we are dispatching the event to show a toast. If there is a cache error, then just show the dispatch event and just show the error, whatever the error is, and that's it. So one method is to create account, which is actually creating account using the UI request API, and the other one is the handle name change event, which is actually just passing these values to the other. Let's go to the HTML one. In HTML, we have form or something. We just have a simple input, and we do have ID bind through this one. So ID is in here. So account ID, see that it has a disabled attribute, which means the user is not supposed to modify any of it. The next one is the name, and the last one is the button. As you can see, the name as the onChange method. OnChange means anything gets changed in here, this method will be called. So even if I type a single letter or multiple, every time this gets created, I mean this gets initiated, and what it does, it actually nullifies the account ID if there is already exist, and whatever the value that I'm putting in is added into the name variable that is being used for account creation. So just say even if I set say m, the m value goes to the name variable. As soon as I click any of these keyboard letters, it is getting the whole value is getting into the name attribute. That's what this method is doing, the handle name change. It is um, triggering through the on change out of the box event of this. The last one, we have this button, which has the method on click, attribute on click event, which is triggering this create account method, which is eventually creating the record like we saw earlier. Isn't it great? I mean, this is a simple way of doing it. Going back to my screen to see if we have any questions. All right, you're good. So going back to the data services, and here you can see the right hand side we have LDS delete record. is, as you can assume that this is also similar with the create, but it is actually deleting the record. These are the ones that we already have been using. And just if I refresh the page, you will find the one that I created earlier, and with M Hamza, the record will be visible in here. And using this component, we can delete these records dynamically. So if I click on deleting this one, I got the success message saying account deleted, and the list has been, the item has been removed from this one. Um, so this component, what it is doing is that it is showing me a list of all the content that exists in a system, and it has the delete icon on the right of each item. And on click, it is actually deleting the record. Let's just see how it is working. Let's go for the JavaScript file first. Right. So this JavaScript file is similar to what we have seen earlier, and it has the refresh apex. This is the refresh apex method, which is actually it tells the Salesforce that to refresh the latest data to make sure that it is having the right data. Any manipulation that you are with the data and you want to show the customer right away, this is how you call the refresh. This method you should call after your action. So this is show toast. We already talked about it. The Apex, we talked about it. This is the UI record API. And now this time we are importing the delete record, not the create one, not the edit. We are importing the delete record method. And this is the, just ignore this part. We'll talk about it. All right. We already seen this. Let's just ignore this one. Or we can talk about it. Okay. So this is basically, we have seen that how we are importing the data using the UI records. This is how you call the Apex method from any of the class. So it's a Salesforce slash Apex account controller dot. This is the Apex class name. And after dot, we have the method name that we are importing. Right. So this has been imported as with an alias get account list. All right. Coming down here. So we got account, the error, and then we have the wired account results. This is the wire method that we are using. Wire actually is a method which we use to get the data to interact with whatever services that we are using, and it can also be used with the UI records and also the Apex. So right now what we are doing is that once we have this method imported here, we are calling this method and getting all the results and putting in these two variables, accounts and errors. And then we have a delete account method, which is getting the value from the DOM, from the event target.dataset.record ID, and it is calling the delete record from the UI record API import that we did earlier, and is actually deleting the record on success. It is dispatching the event of the toast and calling the refresh API so that all the records get updated for that specific component. And if there's an error, just simply dispatch the event for the toast and showing the error. Coming to the HTML. In HTML, is a symbol that we're using template for each. We already talked about this in our session number 2, the compositions and stuff. So this is the for each for the account. So we are getting, just assuming that we are getting multiple accounts, right? So for each account, we are creating a license account, and with the layout, we are actually showing the layout item. So every item just show the name of the account. That's how the for loops working. Um, and um, and then after it, just show the button icon, which has two values. One is the data record ID. That's a custom attribute that we are passing to map the account ID, and the other one is the on click method, which is actually calling the delete account, and the magic is happening there. And that's how this whole component is working. This is so simple to do. You do our stuff with Lightning Data Services. All right, just give me a second. I just need to stop sharing my screen so that I can provide you the I'm gonna pin something on your screen if I haven't did already. Uh, sorry guys, I'm here with you, with all of you. Just please bear with me. All right, I think we're good. I've pinned a message for all of the attendees to register for the raffle. Please have a look at this. So coming back to my screen and showing the entire screen now. All right, so we have seen how this creating and editing works, creating works, and I'm just ignoring the third one here. So we talk about this stuff, right? So let's go and check the other amazing stuff. By the way, if you have any questions, please feel free to let me know. I would love to answer them. All right, now coming back to my presentation. So we're done with this Lightning data services. Um, I would definitely recommend all of you to play around with this because this is so amazing. When it was first arrived with the OR conference, I was super excited with that, and with LWC, it has gone a miles. So I'm really excited for this. The only thing that the consideration I want to talk about is the supported objects. At this moment, most of the objects has been supported by this. Earlier, after last year, I was working with some other cloud, let's just say financial service cloud, and those are a couple of objects were not supported with that, and I was really disappointed. But if you go to this URL, you will find all the objects that are supported for now, and you see there's a huge list, right? So I mean, if I go to this one, and it might have better records. So this URL, you will find all the objects that are supported and how you can do it, and all the you can also get the object information through this. The record I mean, it has most of the information this page. So coming back to the list of objects, so these are the objects that are supported, like account and all the basic ones. Maybe if you're working on the B2C or in a cloud, I'm not sure about that. You should be coming back to this page and see if the object is supported with the Latin data services. All right, I'll definitely recommend you all of you to play around with the Latin data services at your end. Just take a simple scenario and try modifying anything at your end. And playing around is the best part that you can do to help you learn this stuff, because reading or attending the session will not help you until you do it yourself. All right, next we are going to talk about the apex methods. So let's just assume that you are I mean, the basic functionality is great. Yeah, you can create records and modify records. What if there's a custom methods that you have which is doing some advanced stuff, and you want to call these apex methods using the Lightning Web components? So we already talked about how you are going to import any of the methods. We have seen in the last one that this is going to be the class name of yours. I'm sorry, the class name, and with dot add your apex method. In here, it is a simple we already know about the namespace, the default namespace, and if you have a namespace associated with your org, or you're working with managed packages, you should definitely add the namespace before that, otherwise your method will not be recognized by LWC. And, and before that, going further, let's just take this scenario here. This component had the Apex method called account controller and get account list. I'm just gonna keep it here and go back to the Apex class. And here is the account controller. So this is the Apex class. Let me just go overview this Apex class. This has with sharing option. This sharing means that it should respect the sharing protocols associated in the org. And the class name is account controller. And then we have this method. What it is doing is that I'm going to talk about this or enable just in a second. So this public static list is a public method. It is a static. There are two types of methods. Static. This is static, so you can call directly to it. Initiate it. You don't have to initiate this one. And it is the list of accounts. It's actually returning the list of accounts, and the method aim is get account list. And here we are. What it's doing is that it is returning a list of accounts using the SOCL query, right? And what it is returning is that it is selecting the ID and the name from account with security enforce, whatever security protocol that we have set for the org, and just get me 10 records. Your org may have thousands or billions, but just get the 10 accounts and only return the ID and the name. And this is creating a list of all the accounts, which is getting returned with this format. All right. And this is the Aura enabled method. If you want your Apex method to be called by Aura or the LWC, you have to enable this. You have to add this at the rate Aura enabled tag just before the method initialization. And this is the cacheable true. Cacheable true means is that uh, I mean every time Salesforce has the capability to make any of the methods cacheable. As you know that there is a block platform cache out of the box in Salesforce, and by using this cacheable true, you are helping your own code that it should not catch the whole database every time you are calling your LWC. It can use the cache if there isn't cache page in your platform. Same goes with this one. The other one is actually only returning the account, and the method name is get single account. And this account is simple. As you can see, this is also the same stuff that we are calling in here. What's the difference? The difference is the limit. We are only getting the one item here, so it is not going under the list but a single account. But here we have more than one. That means it is a list. All right. um, so coming back to our presentation. So this is we now know that how to call the Apex method and what should be the Apex method format. The first method is the wire attribute. How you can call how you can use the wire. There are two things: the wire and the imperative way of calling the Apex class. Right? And how you can do this? Wire service is mostly used to get the data from the Apex at the start of your component. So once you have imported using this Apex, this is the import method. The next thing that you can do is that at the wire, the Apex method, the alias of the method name, it can change. It doesn't have to be the same Apex, the method name that you are using with the import. You can change the alias of the import method. And using the wire, you should be using the Apex method in here, and any parameter that you are passing from your LWC to Apex. most of the time you may not have any parameters, so you can simply skip this part. And this property or function is actually the, the property or function you can define that the results that are coming out of the wire method, the apex class, where it should reside. So even if I write these two lines, what will happen is it's gonna save all the account information under this variable method. All right, let's just see the demo here, or maybe actually maybe I set the demo after this. Okay, so coming in here and going under the Apex tab. All right. So the first one you can see that is the Apex wire method to the property, and it is showing the list of all the accounts. We have already seen the similar behavior here in the delete trigger, right? It is also giving us the list of accounts. But let's just go to this one because this is a little simpler one. Um, so as you can see that it is showing us a list of all the accounts, and this is just showing the names here, right? Let's just see how it is working here. And as you can see that there are two similar methods. The first one is the wire method to the property, and the other one is a wire method to a function. Let's see the property one, and then we'll go to the function. I'm going to close it. Here we are. So let's just see the JavaScript one. In the JavaScript, what we are doing is simply calling our Apex method using this at the Salesforce /Apex and the controller and the method name, and the alias is get contact list. And the single thing that we are doing is here that we are wiring this method and associating all the return value to the context variable. And in HTML, I hope you get it. Let me just repeat that what I've said. We are using the wire method and calling this Apex method, and all the results will be assigned to this context variable. This is a variable in a JavaScript. You can also use it after this, but we are not in this component. We are not using it. We are using it under the Java HTML file. If I go to the HTML file, here what we are doing is that we have simple lightning card here, and after the lightning card, um, we are using the template for each. So first we are checking if it's true. I mean, if the contact has the data. So all the variables comes, all the data that comes under the wire attribute, it comes under the .data JSON. So we are looking for context.data. If the context.data has any value, only run this whole, otherwise just escape. This is the error panel. If there's any error, it's going to show the error. um, so if the data is there, that's the best method. You should check for the data before running the loop out of it. So the next one is the template for each. We are running the loop for the context data, and the alias is contact, and we are just printing the contact.name with a key of ID with a p paragraph HTML tag, and that's what it is happening in here. If I inspect here, you will find the similar attribute here. Actually, I like this layout better. Here you go. With the paragraph, we are getting all the names. And you may be wondering what this key attribute is for. This key attribute is for actually this is actually the key for the ID for the whole item that we are doing, and that is better for if you're using the more JavaScript methods. So this is how this property works. Now let us see that how this function method works. Okay, just right here, the function. Going to the JavaScript file. Uh, Here's a little difference, as you can see. What is the difference? The difference is that this is actually a function, and that was the property. This in the property one, we just providing the context variable to the wire attribute, and it is setting all the data to that property. But here it is a function. As you can see, this is a function, this void contact function. And here you have the option to modify the data before it gets into any of the property. So let's just review it. Is the same. I'm not going to talk about it again. These two variables we have got it. Now we are calling the wire attribute with the method, and now instead of the property against it, we are calling the method. This method does not have to be assigned anywhere. You can just name anything that you want, and this method is associated with the wire, so it will automatically will execute when the data will arrive from the wire attribute, right? And uh, these are two things. So either you may get the error or the data. If there's data, that means it's a success. And if it's success, just pass the data attribute values to the contact and set the error undefined. But if you have the error there and not the data, then assign the error attribute to the error and uh, just nullify the contact. In the HTML file, we are doing the similar stuff. The only difference is that now we are not using the context of data, because data value already has inside um, the property under the function JavaScript. If you see, we are passing the data to the context. So now we don't have any dot data. It's just the context. And here we are doing the similar stuff. We're looking for if there are any context available. If are there, then we are just simply using the for each and showing the name as it is visible in here in this method. All right, so now we know how this apex var method works. Now coming to the presentation again, and now the last item for our today's presentation is that how you can call the apex method imperatively. So this imperative method is to control when the method in invocation occurs. And the only difference between the imperative and the wire is that imperative is actually, you will do imperative um, when you are doing any of the action. So let's just say uh, you are allowing your visitor to click on any of the stuff, click on any button, click on any action item, but then you use this imperative method. And how you're going to do it, it is similar to what we have seen earlier, is that we are importing this method, and this method is getting called with the then and the catch phrases that we have seen earlier in the same session when you were talking about the record form. Let's just see the demo. Coming to the Apex in here, and here we can see that there's a method called Apex imperative method, and there isn't an action assigned to it. For this one, let's just go to the code first and then come back here and see how it is working. I was thinking maybe I should go with the parameter, but just go to the step by step. So baby step first. Um, let's just talk about for the HTML first. So in HTML, we don't have anything other than the card, Lightning card, and with the Lightning card we have a one button that says load context, and it has the onClick method which is calling the handle load, onClick attribute which is calling the handle load method. And then we have a template if true, which checking if the context has that data. If there is, just loop on it and show the account the contact.name attributes in a paragraph list. All right, that's what we have in an HTML file. Let's just go to the JavaScript. All right, in JavaScript we do not have any var or something, right? We just have the get contact list, the method parameters, and then these two properties that we have assigned here, and a method called handle load, which is getting triggered using the button. And what we are doing is that we are calling this get contact list method the apex method, and we have these two stuff, that then that means the success. If it's success, and the analysis result, put the result under the context. You may be and the difference is here that here, you if you're calling the method imperatively, there is no data. I mean data, not the data property. So you just have to pass right away whatever it is getting assigned to you. And once it's done, um, and same for the error. So if there's an error, simply pass the variable. So the difference here is, as you can see that this, using the wire method call automatically as soon as the component loaded in the DOM. But for the the data is not there until I click this button. So these are two methods how you can call the apex method, and you have both the options. If you need the data to be available as soon as the component just shows to the DOM, you should use the wire. Otherwise, use the imperative method when there's any action hours needed. So if I click on load contacts, it's gonna show me a list of contacts. So what happened actually? As soon as I clicked on it, it called the get contact list method, and uh, uh, all the data has added to the context property, and the context property got checked here with a true if it's true, and the for each work there. All right. Uh, well, that was it. There are other methods that you can use it with the have any parameters, you can simply pass the parameters there. If you have the imperative method with the parameters, you can also do it using that. Let me just quickly show you how you can do it. With the parameters, it's a simple way. You are calling the find context method, and you are having the search key that is coming from the JavaScript using the handle key change. And the value that is getting entered by the user here. So whatever I'm doing it here, this value is coming under the search key variable, and this is how you are passing the value. So under this method, just add this JSON, the variable name of the apex method, and the value, actual value under your JavaScript. That's it. That's how you pass the variable with the imperative way. And there are multiple. Then just simply comma your variable name, apex variable name, actually apex variable name, and your this dot javascript variable name if you have multiple. All right, I think that was helpful. Coming to my back to my session. So yeah, that was it. I hope that was helpful. You have learned how you can use the Lightning data services, how to call the apex methods with all both ways. Um, I hope that we can go into the deep down of it, but with a time constraint. But I assume that you will have spare some time with the LWC at home, play around, and let me know if you have any questions. So next session coming up is the fifth one. We are going to talk about the navigation services, the Aura, and the LWC interoperability with some other extra references. So don't forget the last one, and we're going to have a big quiz with the fifth one and a big chances of swags and whatnot. So don't forget to join us. That's also going to be the last week of the January. And the last, thank you so much, all of you, for joining. I'm going to stop sharing my screen now and also stop recording.